experience and accomplishments.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's enough. But you know, it's vast and quite incredible. And all of this is even more incredible when you realise that Eyad grew up under military occupation in Abu Dis, a Palestinian village in the West Bank. When he was only 16 years old, he was arrested by Israeli soldiers during the first Palestinian Intifada in 1987. Despite this, and despite being arrested again and again by the Israeli occupation forces, Eyad successfully completed his education in Palestine and the UK, including an MSc and PhD from Bradford University. I think it's an understatement to say that Eyad is a phenomenal child. With his vast wealth of knowledge and experience, tonight he's going to talk to us about his personal experience in Israeli prisons. Eyad, over to you.
Thank you very much. You made my life more difficult. You raised the expectation, and I will start with two statements, really. It is very challenging to talk about this topic for me. And there is two main reasons. One, I don't think I am the most qualified person to talk about the pain and the suffering that the Palestinian prisoners endured over the past 40 years. So my own experience is really insignificant. Even to the extent when I was in jail, after I was sentenced, you know, like some of the old prisoners used to mock me, saying, yeah, if we were sentenced 5 months like you, we would have spent it in the toilet of the prison. Okay, so I am not, you know, I don't have this credible track record to talk about the actual pain.
Eyad, can you raise your voice a little bit?
The prisoners can go through. I'll try my best. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing, I thought I would talk today about this. I know I spoke about prisoners before. People asked me to come here. So this is the most unstructured, unrehearsed presentation I have made in my life. Usually, even when I go and speak on AI, I rehearse. My daughter timed me, and she says, "Dad, it's boring," and then we do it again. But today, I thought I will just stick some photos, and I will speak from my own heart to you. The dates, the names that I will mention are true, 100% accurate, and it's my own experience in context of the suffering of the Palestinian prisoners in Palestine. So I thought I should start with this. So, as Lizzie said, Abu Dis, I mean, if you go back home and try to Google it, you will see a very nice wall surrounding it, but I remember the old days. I grew up on this neighborhood. This is my grandfather's house, which is almost 100 years old. This is older than the state of Israel. And it's made of 2 bedrooms. We call it Sidi, it means my grandfather in Arabic. So I grew up calling Sidi. I love this man, and he passed away in 1980. But he has 2 bedrooms. One of them where he and my grandma used to live in, and the other for the guests. And according to the culture then, the toilet has to be away from the house, you know. They don't have the toilet inside the house. Now after the 1967, all my uncles left Palestine, and my dad is the only son of my grandson who stayed there. So just like any other Palestinian families, my dad created these 2 bedrooms in the same garden of my grandfather's house. Here where I opened my eyes, again, there's 2 bedrooms, and the toilet is somewhere outside. And just to give you another perspective, so usually I will be sitting here, very little child. This is the guest room usually light, and this is where my grandparents used to live. That is the early days. And today I'm glad to say that this house is now a cultural center in the village. So we preserved it, we renovated it, and it's part of our identity as Palestinians. And I hope much more houses like this there. So that's Abu Dis. But when you speak about Abu Dis, you speak about Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the lifeline for the village. We used to walk to Jerusalem when we were children. It takes us like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. In Ramadan, we will spend the whole Ramadan there because of free food, free vegetables, it's fun time. So that, in a way, you could not talk about Abu Dis without talking about Jerusalem. So we rely on Jerusalem, And that's basically my childhood. The first event that really shocked me as a child, and I realized suddenly that we are living under brutal colonial occupation, is Samir Abu Nana. Samir was living in the way, really almost halfway between my home and the school. So every day I go, I see Samir. Every day I come back, I see Samir. And he was a very looking, handsome young Palestinian. And he's always dressed really nicely. And we were kind of very jealous as children from how good looking this guy is. Suddenly, I can't see it on the slide, but on the 20th of October, he was jailed. He was abducted from the streets of Jerusalem, and few days later, the house which was in the middle of my way to the school was surrounded by so many soldiers and bulldozers, and it was destroyed. Now the thing about this, why I brought Samir here, I know there's a lot of prisoners there. One, when Samir was jailed, I continued to go to school every day. And then I continued to go to the university, which is just next to the school, every day for the next 15 years. I saw his mother aging quickly. I saw the disease getting into her bit by bit, from diabetes and she passed away when he was in jail. His eldest brother passed away when he was in jail. His youngest brother passed away when he was in jail. Samir is still there. I'm not sure exactly when this photo was taken. They refused to release Samir during all the prisoners' exchange deals that have been carried out. So that is something in my childhood, as we look back. In Palestine, you can always be a target and your life could change in any moment. So that is Samir, and just after Samir, on the 8th of December 1987, I'm sure you hear about Jabalia camp in the news these days. It's been bombarded, it's been flattened for the second time. An Israeli settler crashed into like 5-6 Palestinian workers, and the Intifada started in 1987. Now, when I speak about Intifada, I speak about it with so much nostalgia. I long for that period. This is really the period where the streets were really literally governed by young people. I was 15 years old when the Intifada started. I could give 2 lectures about the Intifada, but just to give you a hint, the Intifada is where the new young generation decided to rebel against everything. The occupation, the military. We even forced the Palestinian employees who work for the civil Israeli administration to resign. We became the police. You would be surprised to know that at the age of 16, I intervened with my friends into a family dispute to stop the man from physically abusing his wife. That was happening to the extent that some women started to see us as a shelter. You are the new police, you are the unorganized force. So that's a great period of our life that lasted for 6 years. But the turning point clearly is on the 21st of November in 1988. I was 16, I'm the eldest son. My mom, she has every single hope on the planet on my shoulder. Like many moms, I guess, if we have Asian moms, she wants me to be a doctor and get married and have a family, and you know the whole story. That day, when the soldiers came to the house, my mom was really literally broken. And now when I remember her, it hurts me because my mom is a tough woman. She's really tough to the extent that she's the boss at home. Dad accepted and believed it, and he surrendered after 3 days from his marriage. She has to leave. She's a woman. But the day the soldiers surrounded the house, and there was a power cut in the village, and they entered into my living room. I was sleeping in the living room because we are a big family. She was so fragile. And this is one of the worst part of my experience. I didn't like then to see my mom weak. I like to see her strong. I like to see her tough, giving order. That day I thought, yes, it's a different matter. She was broken. She was silent. Now this first experience, they came to my house. I just would highlight a few things here. Obviously they blindfolded me. Remember you're talking about 16-year-old child. So my daughter is 16 years old now. I just can't imagine, for God's sake, somebody do the same for her. And they put me in the floor of the jeep, surrounded by soldiers. They are speaking in a very quick way about something very serious, which just intimidates you. And then they drove for another 10-20 minutes, and they arrested another Palestinian guy and throw him on next to me. But I would say the whole interrogation perhaps happened between 7 to 8 days. But after a lot of really hitting hard in this area, I was taken to the interrogation room. And I remember it just like I see you now. Now you are coming fully broken, fully uncertain, fully terrified, and you will enter into this room, and then they will take the blindfolds, and you will see a nice man in his mid-50s with a white hair sitting down. And he starts shouting at the police, "This is a child, you are killing him, leave him alone, go out," etc. Anyway, later on, the bad cop got caught. So he set me down, he reassured me. He said, "Look, I know those guys have literally killed people here. You are too young, Simply tell them whatever they want. Here is a paper and a pen. Write down whatever you know, and you should be safe." And I said, "But I don't know anything, And he said, "Well, think about it." So he left me. And again, this moment of waiting is more worrying than the torturing itself. And then he came back, and of course I didn't say nothing, so he turned into really a monster. You could see how aggressive he is. And there was a lot of incidents I really don't like to recover it, but I will give you a couple of examples. In one occasion, he brought 2 guys, and I was obviously always, handcuffed, and they stripped me off my clothes, and he said, "Within 5 minutes, if you don't decide to say everything, you will be raped." And believe me, many people here has been raped. Now he left, and I stayed alone in this situation. Remember we're talking November, slightly cold. I think, what the hell I'm gonna do, He just wants you to say anything. This is a very fragile state, He came back, I didn't write him. I was really scared. I said, "Look, I have nothing to say." He said, "But your friend said everything." Now just to give you a quick glimpse about my friend Monver, it was a very peaceful, non-violent protest. So under these threats, I have to say I was so fragile, afraid, weak. I said, "Look, bring Monver here. Let Monver say that I did something wrong and I'm ready to admit. Now, of course, I'm cutting things down because this is like a period of 8 to 7 days. I have to suffer a lot of more physical abuse and mental abuse. And just to give you an example, one of the things they used to do, of course you are tied to the chair, you are handcuffed. He will bring a very heavy book and start to hit you hard in your head. Now I think they do this for a reason. First, they don't leave a scar, they don't let you bleed, but actually it could do a lot of damage for you. When you are constantly being hit, you end up disoriented, you are not sure what's going on. And that was part of the story, and then I said, well, I need to see him on there. And at that moment, and again, this is one of perhaps the climax of my story in this experience here. He said, no, I don't want you to say anything. I want you to be a hero, okay? Don't tell me anything. And then he opened the drawer and he took a nice box and he gently and slowly, just like a movie, opened it. And he took an injection. And he started like preparing it. And then he looked at me, really was full of anger. I would love to meet this guy today. How would you do this to a 16-year-old child? I'm thinking about this, regardless of anything. And he said, you know what is this? I said, no. He said, this is an injection. Once you get it, you will never have a relation with a woman and you will never have a child in your entire life, And you have 5 minutes to think about it and I'll come back here and you decide. And again, they put you under this physical, mental pressure and the time to wait. And you think about everything in your life. And you don't want to bring someone from outside to suffer like you do. So it's a very, very difficult situation, I hate it, because I went out of jail. And I was so proud to tell my friends that they haven't broken me. But they actually left a scar inside. And that scar will never heal, So that is one thing that happened in the first part of the Intifada. Just moving on, again, I just want to relate it to the prisoners. 1990 is a very tough year for 2 reasons. First, it was the year I'm supposed to do the hires, so we don't call it the hires, we call it Tawjih. But most important, I lost Abdullah. Abdullah is my friend, and he's a 16-year-old boy. He was 18 then when he was shot dead. He was shot dead on the 27th of January. Now, just to give you a context, how do we protest in the village? There is a main street, you close it to prevent the soldier jeeps to go in. We stand at least 1,000 yards away from the soldiers, and basically, you're throwing a stone. The stone won't reach them. But you are throwing the stone to say, we don't want you here. It's an act of very non-violent protest. Abdullah was shot dead. There was a sniper, he sat down, he aimed, he shot him, and Abdullah didn't move. He had it in the heart. And Abdullah, all the first 6 years of my primary experience, I used to go a lot to his home. Most of the time I would have lunch at his home. His mom was so happy with him. He's the eldest boy. Suddenly there is no more Abdullah. Okay? That's something happened. On that year, Tower, maybe, don't quote me on this. This is the picture with my classmates celebrating the last day in school before the actual exams. Think of it like the highest here. And I don't know if you can recognize me, but that's me here. That's my math teacher. Also, he was jailed so many times. And then all those guys, we went our homes. We started studying for the final exams. I remember Arabic exam, religion exam, and then there was English exam. Because I loved English, I thought, wow, I don't need to study much on English. So I went out and I played football. I came back home. I will never forget that moment in my life. I wasn't afraid of the soldiers there, because now I'm experienced. I have a track record with them. But literally our home was like a corridor, and there's 3 bedrooms on the right, and the toilet there, and the main entrance is there. So I went and showered. It was like 10 at night. I came out, I'm looking at the mirror here, and I saw my daughter in the mirror opening the door. And I saw the lights on the soldiers' helmets. And I said, shit, that's it. You lost your future. Because this is a critical moment in your life. The 15th of July 1990, this is like where my mom would love to sit down and show off in front of her neighbors. Yeah, made it and achieved the highest grades. And you know the stuff that she's done. So they took us that day. That's me in the newspaper. It took me like 30 years to appear again in the newspaper. But I just want to stop on one thing about the trip to the prison. They took me out. They went down and took my neighbor Mahmoud Jafar. He's a friend and also a neighbor, and he was older than me. And they took few guys from the neighboring villages, and they took us to a military camp in the village. Now, just try to feel the story. This is one of the most posh houses then in the village. It occupies the top of the hill, and the guy who owns it passed away. So Israel, upon the start of the Intifada, decided this is our military camp. So they took this and they made it like their military base. So here's another shot actually. Imagine this is from the house on the hill, and you are overlooking the university and the school where we studied. And this is the wall. So they took us there. We spent, perhaps I can tell with confidence, maybe I was jailed 10 o'clock at night. At least I'm sure we were there till 4 in the morning because we could call, we could hear the call for the prayer. But during these 6 to 7 hours, you are talking about soldiers, young soldiers, 18 years, 19 years. And those soldiers, basically, they have to serve. Israel is a military state. We call it, Israel is an army that has a state. It's not like any other state which has an army. And those guys are bored simply. And you have 5, 6 helpless Palestinians, handcuffed, blindfolded, on their knees, sitting down. You don't dare to raise your head. So they can't do anything. They want to entertain themselves. And I don't want to go through the details, but I'll give you 2 things here. One, they pissed on us, literally. 5 or 6 soldiers stand next to each other and repeat us. When I arrived to jail, Mahmoud, because he knows Hebrew, he said, man, you are lucky you don't know Hebrew. I said, why? He said, because they kept saying to themselves, oh, those bastards are lucky because the ginger soldier is not there, or they has a nickname. And then when the other soldiers asked, what did he do? It's like, this guy, he would have raped them with a stick. And I said, well, I'm glad I don't understand Hebrew. So that was a horrific journey to jail, really horrific. And now I'm thinking about it, put yourself in the shoes of the soldier and the state and whatever. I just want to highlight the Dahriya prison. Just to give you a glimpse, this is where I get lucky. This is the luxurious part of this journey. We arrived to Al-Dahriya jail. They look us 18 to 20 people each in a room. There is no toilet in the room. And this is part of dehumanizing you. There's a black barrel in the corner, that's your toilet. So what we used to have like a blanket, just to preserve each other's privacy. And every 3-4 days, this barrel will be full, and we will take turns to take the stuff out and come back. For 18 days in the Dahriya, I don't remember I had a shower, so you can't imagine your situation. And then then I would say, like at this part of the story, when I arrived to the Negev desert. The Negev is again, it's a very bad, it's a detention center which has a very bad reputation. But at least there you are, with so many prisoners from all over Palestine, from Gaza, from all political factions, from Hamas, from Fatah, communists, So I remember like one of the funniest things, we used to sit in the communist room. There was leftist people, but I used to stay most of the time in Hamas tent. Because the guys of Hamas, they don't smoke, but they receive 3 cigarettes every day. And you go there, they will offer you a cigarette. Other prisoners will never offer you a cigarette. No, it was a pleasant experience to learn and also to be more resilient. And to tell yourself, if those guys aim to break me, I want to be as solid as iron, as solid as rock. And in fact, I was told, when I entered, because every village, it has like one of the intelligence services commanders. He told me that every time you do your hires exam, we will come and arrest you. We will cripple your future. I said, well, man, I will keep trying. You make me a hero, I'll just do it. And I should say, alhamdulillah, thanks God, I managed to finish this. But that is like my summary of the personal narrative of the story of the prisoners. But if you think about it, I think in Palestine we are all prisoners. You are either in jail, locked and tortured, or you are locked in a village like this. This is Abu Dis, and this is the Aqsa Mosque. We could hear the call for a prayer, but you are not allowed to go there. This is Abu Dis. This is the village where we used to walk from here to Jerusalem, and this is the wall. So you are literally jailed. You are occupied. You are at prison. And that is part perhaps of the area. So we are all, I would say, in jail. Just to summarize this part, I would say Israeli jails were designed to break prisoners physically and mentally. Now, it's far more worse. And this is one of the reasons why I feel so embarrassed to share my own personal experience. It is painful for me to go back to these memories, but it is also embarrassing when I compare it to what's going on right now. I'm happy to share these slides. I put like some stuff, if you look at the Damir report about just the torture positions. This is just about the torturing positions they use in Israeli jails. If you look at some of the new headlines, I'm sorry for the slides here, but like here it says, we are the masters of the house. Israel Channel Air, Snap video featuring sustainability. Imagine those guys sitting like this, bending, 24/7. They only now go. And of course, in the Israeli media, they will tell you these are the elite fighters of the Hamas resistant groups in Gaza, which is absolute lie. I am from Palestine, and I tell you, the guys who fight in Gaza, they don't surrender. They fight because they love this fight. They fight for their homes, and they don't mind dying. Okay? The latest report that was released by CNN, I couldn't believe my eyes that CNN, one of the most biased, complicit media platforms, is reporting out like this. Strapped down, blindfolded, held in diapers, Israeli was blown. Imagine this. How inhumane. This is an act of revenge. I am the Israeli mighty, powerful. I am your God. I'm doing whatever I can. And of course, if you look, even this guy, I think I was watching some tweet accounts, they recognize him. He's blindfolded all day. At least in my days, when you arrive to jail, you're not blindfolded. You're not handcuffed. Now this is what we have. This is my cousin, Ali. Now, while I was preparing for these slides, I was in a meeting at work. Don't tell my boss about that. And then my mom called me. And I know when she called me, there is something serious. So I have to cut and go. She said, look, Ali wants to talk to you. Ali, he's a very peaceful guy. He works as an imam for a mosque. We use even to make fun of him that he doesn't get into politics. He gets married, he has kids. I think he has 3 daughters in a row, and one of his biggest dreams was to get a boy with them. And God gave him twins, you know. So that's like, you know, that's his main objective in life. So, but as an imam, when he delivered a speech, he talked about what's going on in Gaza. He was jailed for 6 months after October the 7th. This is Ali after 6 months. So when I picked the phone, she said, Ali wants to talk to you. And I spoke to him. He said, you know what I did when I left? I said, no. He said, I prayed and thanked God that I didn't lose my sanity in jail. People inside right now literally are either dying or they lose their sanity. And apparently this is what this whole system is. Remember who's on top of this security and prison affairs? It's Ben Ghafir. He's one of the most extremist, racist human you could ever meet. But what Ali told me, and this is where I feel the guilty, he mentioned Zafar. Now I want to tell you about Zafar Rinawi. Zafar, again my age, he was jailed during the first Intifada for 5 years. I didn't know him then because he's from another village. But in 1998, I was in the last year in the university, he joined after being released. He was kidnapped in 2002. Now Zafar is 22 years in jail. So when he saw my cousin and he said, I'm from Abadis, he said, say hello to Eyad and how is Eyad? And I was literally on tears. Because again, this is why we should do something about prisoners. Zafar was my friend. I visited his home. I ate a Palestinian dish from his mom's hand. He came with his mom. We had like family relation. And yet, Zafar is now forgotten in jail. And he is sentenced for a lifetime, you know. And there are so many Zafars, but I'm trying just to see at least those guys who we are connected with. A friend of mine is actually a friend of my brother. Eyad, he works for the Palestinian Legislative Council. That's my brother. He has a friend, Abu Hashish. He has a lovely daughter, and she is almost graduating. Look, in Israel, they don't do things random. They just abducted her 7th of May. I think I put her, but when I checked the date, it's actually the 7th of May. They abducted her. She is almost graduating, finishing, finalizing her exams and stuff. And my understanding, she secured a postgraduate scholarship somewhere in Europe. Now, basically, they cut her progress, you know. And this happens to many Yards. I mentioned Yara because my brother told me, and I was really disappointed and sad for what happened to her. But there is many Yaras like this who cannot plan their future. I don't know if you get about Dr. Adnan Bosch. He's a lead surgeon. He's a lead. No, these are the elite. These are the doctors that should be protected under any law, human or religious or whatever. He didn't die in jail. He was tortured to death. And imagine just linking my personal story when you know that you are being systematically tortured to death. And they don't care. Because they act with full impunity. And there is no accountability. You know? So that's one typical example of how many people like Dr. Adnan has passed away. Right now, and I got these numbers from Adamir just like I think last night or the night before, 3,424 Palestinians are jailed under administrative law. So basically there's no charges. If you think Eyad is dangerous, but there's nothing to prove he's dangerous, lock him in jail. There is 250 children. There is 78 female prisoners. There is in total 9,300 prisoners. What is really sad is in Palestine we celebrate martyrs. You know, even Rabin, he said, when you kill a Palestinian, you become a martyr and you inspire a new generation. Those guys are forgotten. They are living in parallel time. Some of them were in jail before the mobiles and the phones and the internet. Their entire generation of their families have passed while they are inside. You know? And I don't want to mention Walid Dakka and many others who basically they have one dream in their life, to hug their child before they pass away. Look at this one here, again, these guys, this photo shamelessly was released by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, after their latest operation in the Shechem. A lot of these guys has been recognized. Doctors, medical staff, work in the emergency room. Dr. Mohammed al-Sardiya, the director of the Al-Shifa hospital. Some people say that he's almost like he has broken ribs, broken arms. He was tortured to almost death because they wanted him to go on video saying that yes, Hamas was actually using Al-Shifa as a military base, and he refused to do that. Those guys here, what happened with them? You know, where are they? Who can help Israel accountable? That's why it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad and outraged. It's okay when you see Sunak or Starmer to throw them with a tomato or rotten, whatever you name it. I put these slides because often I receive a lot of messages like, I talk about this all the time, and people tell me, you gotta be careful, you have a job, now you have a life. Look, you have a life, but do you want to live your life like a coward, or do you want to say the truth even if it will cost your neck? We are doing nothing. They tell me it's complicated. It's not complicated. Someone came in and took your home and kicked you out and tortured you and tortured your sons and your grandsons. What you are going to do? It's not complicated. This woman in 1948, I always stare on her wrinkles, in her eyes, in her disbelief. She was perhaps an owner of a big garden, and it's still happening for 76 years. Those guys left in 1948. Those guys are leaving in 2023. It's not complicated because it can't be more obvious. You know, it's either you side with the child Faris Order in 2000 who was shot dead, or you side with the tank. There is no gray area here. You know, it doesn't matter how they label you, a terrorist, Hamas sympathizer. I have a lot of Jewish friends. I sometimes joke like, guys, you are labeled as self-hating Jews. You know, they give us labels. We should not be intimidated by these labels. It can't be more clear. I mean, again, I tell friends, especially those who send me private messages, watch these guys. Watch these two parts of the equation and you will decide. Do you have the courage to say one word loud on social media or to protest or to join an activity? So it's not that complicated. I want to end on a positive note. I'm sorry, maybe it's a bit depressing for you a little bit, but I mentioned this in the last talk. This is Daniel Johnson. He was assistant professor at St. Scholastica College in Minnesota State University. He came on a sponsored trip to Israel in 1993, 6 weeks trip. And he was told, you know, be away from the bad guys. The bad guys, we are the bad guys. You know, we are thieves. They will even warn women about us that we could physically abuse them, etc. And then this guy decided, you know what, I want to go to Jerusalem and try to find one of those bad guys. So he found me. I was in 1993. And he said, I mean, like, where can you take me? I said, well, I can't take you to Jerusalem. I work as illegal guide, illegal tourist guide in Jerusalem. Illegal because Israel won't allow me to do this. He said, no, I've been through all of Jerusalem. Take me to your village. But where shall I take him in my village? You know? So I said, okay, I will take you to my grand aunt's house. Now, Hajj Halim is about. She has probably 200 grandchildren. They are spread all over the world. From Australia to America to the States. I don't think there is any in the UK. We usually have sensitivity about Britain. Like, I thought to travel to every country apart from the UK because of historical reasons. I ended up here and I love Scotland. So, and I thought this is a very good example. This woman with all these children and grandchildren, she's sitting alone. So I will take him to see him. So I take him to Hajj Halima. There was also my grand uncle, Hajj Ahmed Mariam. 3 of them passed away. She refused to go to Jordan because she wanted to die in her home in Palestine, next to Jerusalem. He spent there like maybe 1 hour with her. I will just leave you to read. This is what he wrote. I hope you can read it. What really struck me when he went back to the States and he said, this place, this moment, so calm, so peaceful, was worth the entire 6-week trip. Remember, the entire 6-week trip were paid by some pro-Israeli lobbyists to show him how beautiful Israel is. And it was only the Hajj Halima alone, in her very poor house, on a very poor matrix or carpet type of underhand. It was more authentic than the whole state of Israel. So usually when I see friends depressed, I say, look, we are authentic people. This is a very superficial state, okay? How, regardless of the media bias and the brainwashing and you name it, the truth will prevail. And it is already prevailing despite the huge price. Other thing that really I want to end in a positive note, I mean, I love this trio. And maybe this is a strong statement, genuinely. I keep saying, like, for example, usually I fight with my wife. She prays day and night that God will do these things. I say, no, God, please don't listen to her. We need these things. Because for the past 76 years, Israel practiced land theft. They committed every kind of massacres you could think of. Go and Google a Tantura massacre, you know, or Deir Yassin, or Kirbia, or Kfar Qasim. They were celebrated. They glorified the perpetrators. But then they were talking the other talk. There is an arm that kills and steal the land. But on TV is no, we want peace, we want talks, we want negotiation, we are happy. You know, Shamir in 1990, when Madrid starts, he said, we will use this to negotiate with the Palestinians for the next 30 years. And they fooled a lot of the Palestinians, and they fooled the world. Now, those guys, amazing. We don't want Palestinian state. This guy, he goes in the extreme, flatten Gaza, get rid of the people of Gaza, bring the settlements back. This guy, no innocent people in Gaza, get rid of them. So this is the first time in the 76 years where we have people at the top positions in Israel expressing their actual true intentions. It wasn't the case. Now people like Sunak and Biden and Germany, the guy in Germany, I don't like him, I don't like to remember his name even, they are trying desperately to defend Israel. You know, but they don't give them a choice. This is a fantastic trade. So really pray to God that they will stay there for another couple of years. And the final thing, and I'm sorry that I took too much time, this is also part of the trio. This is how arrogant this state is. Remember, you're talking about the people of Palestine and Gaza. 143 states, sovereign states from the planet, from all corners of the planet, voted for a Palestinian state full membership to the UN. He went out, he shook everything like chocolate, and he said, shame on you. If I'm playing with 3-4 kids, I wouldn't have the courage to say shame on you kids. This is the arrogance. This is because they were treated like the spoiled child for the past 76 years. It's time this has to change. And it actually started to change from Gaza. Okay? So that's why I personally am very optimistic that this project is approaching its end. And that's not my word. This is Eyad, a great Israeli Jew historian. You know, he is talking about that, yes, it is approaching its end, but it's going to be more aggressive, there will be more bloodshed, and it will be dangerous. And that is what we are seeing right now. Okay? But definitely, I mean, things are changing. By the way, this guy, because we're talking about prisoners, he was doing Ben Gafir job between 2015 to 2020. And he is the guy who engineered how to make a Palestinian prisoner's life more difficult. And the guy he's holding his photo, he was in their jails for 23 years. Okay? So there is a lot of symbolism in this photo. And this trio, and this is not me, the Israelis themselves, they are taking Israel downhill.